Well, good morning, my dollops of dry cappuccinos. This is a black Americano, by the way. It's delicious. I love it. Have you ever had anything stolen from you before? It's not a very nice feeling, is it? We actually had our car broken into while it was sitting there in our driveway. Whether or not it was broken into, I don't know exactly. I think Liz might have left all the doors unlocked, but I don't really want to dwell on that because she feels very, very bad about that. But regardless, someone gained entry to our car, and we did not want them to. Whether they were locked or unlocked. The doors, that is. The things they stole: a firearm. Yeah, that ain't cool. And that is a really, really bad feeling when someone has stolen a gun. We woke up in the morning and saw that the lights, the dome lights, were not working. Like, wow, that's weird, and they were off. Why would someone turn them in the off position? Liz and I were wondering, and we were like, well, they certainly found some of our insurance as they're rifling through the glove compartment, and then they opened up the middle console, and we kept a Beretta Bobcat, a small little .22 pistol. It misfired all the time. It didn't work very well at all. But we had it stored, hidden, out of sight in the middle console. Yeah, worst feeling ever when someone steals something, especially when it's a gun. So we reported it to the police and did everything, and I take pictures of all my expensive belongings. I'm just like that, just in case something like this ever happens. And so we actually had a color photograph of this very gun. So if it ever shows up on people trying to sell it or something, they'll run the numbers, it'll get caught, they'll find them. So this punk kid who was just going around prowling cars, getting stuff, he's gonna have to hold on to this broken firearm for forever. Strangely enough, I actually got a telephone call from someone. It was from a blocked number, so it was not traceable, unless of course I had like a warrant or something. And it was in response to a flyer that I put up around the neighborhood. I put up a flyer with a picture of my gun, because as you know, I took color photos of these things. And it said reward for those who... No, it didn't say reward. It said a stolen firearm. The caller was asking if there was a reward. And I was like, yeah, definitely, if we can talk here. He said, oh, okay, because I'm pretty sure my friend showed me this exact gun. Really? Yeah, but alright, how much is the reward? And I said, as much as the gun is worth. And I said, believe me, you can't get rid of this gun. And he was like, oh, okay. Is this weird, kind of conversing with the guy who knew someone who stole the gun? Or maybe he did actually steal the gun and he just wanted to say, yeah, I'm representing this other guy. Yeah, it's really wild. But I made sure to tell him that I was a Christian guy and that I loved Jesus, I loved people, and not meaning to preach at you here, but I did. I wanted to get that across. I was like, look, you just got to know that I love Jesus and I love people. That probably won't change your mind. I don't know, because it was pretty obvious that he wasn't going to go for it. He was just going to keep this thing. But I said, hey, as long as you know that, go your way and be very, very safe. This probably wasn't like a career criminal we're talking about. It's probably just this 14-year-old punk kid who Googled how to block my telephone number when calling someone. Something like that. So, yeah, anyway, that's one of the worst feelings ever. And in our neighborhood, and we don't live in a bad neighborhood, I really don't think so. It's just we have a lot of people walking by. So it's easy access to our house. And these kids walk by on their way to school or something like that. Punk kids. When we first moved in, I actually asked the neighbor, is this a safe neighborhood? He said, yes, it's a safe neighborhood, but we have a lot of juveniles walking through here. He used the word juvenile. You know, that if that just doesn't, you know, sound awful, juvenile, kids walking on my lawn. I wanted to make so sure that our neighborhood was safe. I drove our pickup truck and parked it right out in front of the house, and I slept in the back of it before we actually purchased the house. I've gotten some people saying, okay, that's a little too far. That's weird, Beau. This is coming from a fellow who at that point was living in Puyallup. And when we first moved in there, in case you don't know, the Clock Tower by the River apartments, they flood every 5 years or so, but they don't tell you that when you move in. They also don't tell you that a train goes through downtown Puyallup maybe 4 or 5 times a day, and they don't go through quietly. They blare their horn the whole way through the town. And it's really, really loud, especially when it's in the middle of the night. And of course you don't know this when you're first looking around the apartment. You're just thinking, hey, this is really cool. We're actually within walking distance of the train station. All right. But you don't realize that they do not have a city ordinance in place that says, trains, don't blow your horns. And the trains are like, hey, let's go crazy here. Wow. So for all I knew, there was a train track around this house, or maybe the neighbors had a habit of turning on European disco music at 2 a.m. You know, just things like that. You want to be sure before you invest in, you know, a $200,000 property. You want to know all facets of it. So I sat in the back of this pickup truck, and you know, you're kind of nervous because here you all are all by yourself on the side of the street, and this light woke me up, and it was shining in the truck. And if that doesn't terrify you, I don't know what does. And there's this voice saying, hello? Hello? It's like, and I just kind of was like, hello? And then you could see the light kind of jump as it realized that there was someone in the back of this truck. And this voice said, you can't be here. And so I sort of opened up the canopy, and I popped my head out, showing both of my hands so that if it was a cop, I didn't want him to think like I was doing this. Like, I'm just kidding. It was our next door neighbor. Really nice guy, but his wife said, that car is still parked out there, and I'm not used to that. Can you go take a look? So he did. Hey, that's great. He was actually making the neighborhood a safe place. And I told him what I was doing, and I said, you know, I guess this is kind of a good sign, isn't it? And he just laughed. So that's our neighborhood, our nice sleepy little neighborhood. I do love it, and we try to keep our house nice, you know, clean, bright orange door. There was a big tree out front that we cut down, which was an adventure of itself, but I won't go into too much detail how we tied a climbing rope to the top of that and then pulled it with all our might as we cut it down so that it would actually fall in one direction and not on our house. It was pretty sketchy. But there was this stump about 5 feet high that we had left. We're like, well, what do we do with this ugly, ugly stump? We had it carved by a custom chainsaw, you know, artist into a custom piece of artwork. A gnome. Yes, that's right, a gnome. It's just this little dwarf man with a beard and a pointy hat, and his hand is kind of like this with a hole drilled in it, so we can put things in it like an American flag during 4th of July. You know, things like that. Isn't that just so cool? We personalize things. I love this little house.